Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. We have a couple of guys here that are in the middle, not at the end. They're not at the beginning. They're in the middle of creating the adventure of their lifetime because they are doing something that I always wanted to do, and that was to do a sports program and to do a sports talk program. And they're doing it, and they're doing it with some success. They're both in to our friends to the north. They're in Canada. One is just out of Vancouver, and the other one is so far away he has to fly 6 hours to work every week, back and forth. And so he lives on the northern slope of somewhere, I think. I'm not exactly sure where that might be. Aaron, where is Aaron Samuels is with us, as well as Jake James, and you guys just switched spots in our little thing here, so which is kind of cool. But so Aaron, where exactly is it that you do your gameful employment? I cannot. Jake, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Oh,
Sorry,
there
guys.
you go.
How's that now?
Perfect.
I live up in Edmonton, Alberta, and I do fly to work every week. I work in northern Alberta, up in the oil business, and there's lots of oil and gas up in northern Alberta. So that's I guess that's my full-time job, and this is my passionate job, the one that I truly love.
And if I were to describe to you what it is that your show is about, it is a bare knuckle sports show on the Brushwood Media Network, and you're on every Saturday, a couple of times on Saturday, as a matter of fact. And so you're on Saturday. Describe for us what your show is and what it's about.
I'll take the reins. It's basically about us giving our personal opinions about all kinds of sports around the world that are going on, mainly the ones that are going on at the time, not throughout the year. And yeah, we just give our opinions about what's going on. And overall, not necessarily everyone agrees with us, but we give probably our knowledgeable input on it.
Now, go ahead.
We like to talk about every sport that's out there. We touch a little bit on everything. And we're just basically sports junkies that love to get our opinions out there and talk a bunch of BS, and every once in a while we're even right.
Well, that's a beautiful thing about sports, is that everybody gets to have an opinion, and it doesn't necessarily, there is no fact necessarily, except for when little things happen, like, and I know Canada is in mourning now, and flags are at half mast because Florida beat what was it, Edmonton for the Stanley Cup?
Edmonton Oilers, yes, they did.
And so I know everybody's really irritated and sad about that. But, there's always, that's a beautiful thing about sports, is always next year.
Precisely.
You always got next year. You always have hope. Everyone starts out the season in the same spot, no matter what last season was, right?
Oh, exactly. How did you two meet?
He's my uncle, not by blood, but married in, and we ended up making the show, and here we are.
Well, that's easy. I thought maybe it would have a longer story than that. So,
No, I can tell you how it happened, though. I'm married to his aunt, but we got to know each other and started talking and had an idea about doing a sports show because we're both, like I say, a little bit of sports junkies. And we started seeing what we could do, doing some demos, having some fun with it. And we thought, hey, let's take a run at this. I think we got something here. We can really, really go with it, even if we don't agree with each other, because every team he likes, I don't like. and vice versa. So it makes for good entertainment, right?
Well, yeah. Well, especially when you run across some controversial subjects, like as an example, when the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson to Denver and stuff, and there are lots of different aspects to that, and many other things in sports that make it really interesting for anybody to really um, work at at understanding it and to come up with an opinion about it. But you guys must spend a lot of time covering it and reading the sports pages and listening to sports radio and doing all that kind of stuff to come up with your opinions, I would think. Do you?
Yeah, occasionally I'll buy a hockey magazine, even though you can all look at it online. But I'll buy an occasional magazine just to look through it, hockey drafts, football drafts, because I'm big into fantasy sports and stuff like that. Because it's fun to compete against friends and stuff, and if you have good knowledge, then you're always winning all the time. It's definitely a big booster there.
Well, and what do you guys think about? Well, before I get into that, I want to mention again that you're part of the Brushwood Media Network, as I am. I love the network. They do a really nice job of promoting everybody and helping everybody out and doing some editing if they need to and that kind of stuff. How did you run into the folks at Brushwood?
Ran into Brushwood Media through my wife. My wife was doing some work for another client and had made some contacts. And I'd always talked about doing my own sports show. I used to always say I miss my calling. I should have been a sportscaster. Should have been a professional player, but I missed that one. And I didn't realize I could have stuck with it all just by being a sportscaster. And then she had some contacts. We started making some tapes, reached out, had an idea, a vision, and it just kind of went from there. So without the help of my wife, Jake's aunt, we're probably not having this conversation right now, to be completely honest with you.
Well, what does she do?
She is a personal executive assistant for Dr. Barry
Doesn't have to
Leica.
give me the name. Dr. Leica. Is her name Tammy?
It is Tammy.
Oh, would you tell her hi for me? And I've been on Dr. Leica's show before. He's a great guy. Tammy is wonderful, and we're waiting to go on his show again. So tell her at her convenience, she has my number. Look it up. So, but yeah,
I will make sure that is done for you.
and what she'll do is go, who? And I don't remember that name. So anyway, but that's really cool, and it's interesting how close knit everybody is and how the community can be. Because Brushwood is, I'm not going to give the names, but it's run by the nephew of a very famous actor, and he's famous kind of in his own right. And they put the Brushwood Media Network together, which is a syndicated radio network. And I just love the variety of shows that are on it, from Dr. Leica's show to your show to Mary Jackson's show to Gina. I had it right there on the tip of my tongue. I really did. Gina's show and like I said, your show and it's a lot of fun to put it together. And I'm told that we are, our numbers are actually really quite good.
I think we're doing well. I think we're doing well right now.
So on any given Saturday, how many people do you think are listening to your show?
On any given Saturday, there could be up to 300,000-400,000 people possibly listening to our show.
Isn't that cool? Doesn't that make you feel? Now, for somebody that has been doing this a while, it's like, that's just not fair. You've been doing this for 7 months and you've got 3 million people that are listening to you or whatever it is. And I've been doing this since 2003. But now Brushwood tells me that because they're in association with Apple, that we're doing very, very well. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on is I want to support the station and support the channel of how each of us presents a different show and puts it all together and all that kind of good stuff. So again, thank you for being here.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
So what do you want to know? What do you want to talk about today? What do you think our audience would like to know?
Maybe
Well, they want to know a little bit probably about us and where we came from and how we got to where we are today and what drives us in doing this, I would think. If I can step in right now, just tell you a little bit maybe about my background when it comes to sports, because like I say, we're sports junkies and I've been involved in sports since I was young. I grew up playing sports. I played organized hockey and soccer, basketball, volleyball. I did track and field, a lot of football, which was really my first love, I guess. Hockey and football have always been my first love. And I say football just because I was a little better football player than I ever was a hockey player. I can skate and play, but that darn knee injury, it just messed me up. My trajectory went the other way. But yeah, that's kind of my background. Why I have such a passion and love for sports is I grew up playing it, and I think there's nothing more exciting really than the competitive nature of humans against one another. It brings out the best and the worst in people, but it's fantastic. That's my background and why I just have a passion for sports the way I do. I'll let you go with Jake, and you can tell your story why you're where you are.
Same route as Aaron. When I was growing up, I was always into hockey and soccer, a little bit of lacrosse, and just sports in general. I was always pretty good at it, so I just stuck with it pretty fast. I didn't go professional or anything. I played Metro soccer a little bit, some not professional hockey, but it's professional ball hockey in Westerns and Edmonton and stuff like that. So traveled a bit, and then didn't go anywhere with it. But I always stuck with my friends and playing in betting and fantasy and stuff like that. So I have good statistics on lots of football players and hockey players. That was my bread and butter. So I would just know the statistics and everything. And I just stuck with it. And I always wanted to go on a show and just tell people like my knowledge and stuff like that, just so that people could relate to what I'm saying.
Okay, I got a question for the two of you. Who thought up the idea of let's give these players a stick and let's give them a little round thing to chase after, and then just to make it interesting, we'll put them on skates? Who came up? What sadistic person came up with that idea?
I think it was some early pioneers of the country. We're frozen tundra half the year, and they thought we need a game we can play most of the year round. It is a crazy game, crazy sport, and played very fast. And the one thing about it is the physicality of the sport, because a lot of people follow football, watch football, and there's contact every play. They're hitting hard. You get guys running. But we've got players that are playing hockey that are moving at 35, 40 kilometers an hour on the ice and smash into each other. It is an impact at a speed like that. But I don't know who had the mindset to think something like that up. It is a little crazy.
It is something that I find really hard to believe, because you're right. In football, generally speaking, when you're going about to get hit, because I played football for a long time too, you know where it's coming from. You know you're going to tackle somebody, and you know where it's in hockey. Unless you have your head on a swivel, there are times when you have no earthly idea where this hit's going to come from, and the next thing you know, your teeth are on the mat or on the ice, and you're not well anymore. So that, I mean, it is that way. But I've always asked people, I don't understand the game, because I'll be watching the game, and somebody's going really fast, and somebody's going towards the goal, and they'll call, the whistle will blow, and they'll say, "Oh, offsides," and nobody can tell me what offsides means. Would you explain to me what offsides is in hockey? I know what it is in football, but what is it in hockey?
Jake, I'll let you run with it.
So before you enter the offensive zone, if your line mate or teammate goes over the blue line, I guess you could say, beforehand, before the puck does. Therefore, they're offside because they entered the zone before the play could be developed because the puck hasn't entered before they did. So therefore, it is offside.
See, in my world in basketball, they call that a fast break.
In hockey, it would be considered cherry picking. That's
Yeah.
what we call it up here. If you're trying to sneak in and get down there, they call it cherry picking, and then otherwise offside.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. See, I would think it's like, hey, coach, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to lose them and I'm going to go around them and on behind them, and then he's going to throw me the puck, and you're telling me that's offsides. I would call that a really good play.
Yeah. I wish that was the case.
If you can get away with it, it's a good play. Because if you aren't cheating, you're not trying, and you see it time and time again.
Yeah.
But 99% of the time, you're not going to get away with it. But now you know exactly what it is. So the next time someone calls it, you'll be the one pointing it out and explaining it, saying, this is offside.
And which would be followed by, I don't have any idea why they made up that rule, but they call it fast break in basketball, where if you can get down to your end and there's nobody there and you can make the shot, that's a good thing. I don't know why it's a bad thing, but apparently that's the way it goes.
Yeah, they just don't want anyone hanging out around the goal just standing there. No cherry picking. It's not allowed.
Oh, it's okay. All right. Well, isn't it interesting how different sports play out different ways depending upon what that particular sport is trying to accomplish? And because even though hockey is a very violent sport and people hurt each other and they run into each other a lot, you have rules so that you can't violate and cherry pick and go down and do that because that's the rules, I guess. So that's pretty cool.
One more rule while we're talking about it, Kevin, just because we were talking a little bit about in hockey, you have to have your head on a swivel and be careful, but you cannot blindside a guy in the numbers from behind. You can't hit from behind like that. If you do that, it's 5 major game, you're out, because chances are you're going to put someone's neck through the boards and end up paralyzing them or worse. So
that's interesting. So if a major penalty, here's another thing I don't get. A major penalty in hockey, how many minutes do you have to sit in this little box?
5.
Yeah, 5
Major
minutes.
is 5.
And then they're less than that depending. Now,
If you get a major, you can score as many, because in hockey, when you get a penalty, if you score a goal, the other team gets to come out of the box. But if you're in a major penalty, they can score as many goals as they like. And sometimes you'll get 5 in a game, a major in a game.
Mm-hmm.
So someone has to serve your penalty, and you're actually out of the game. You know, they'll boot you out. You're done for the night.
Now, there's a term in hockey that I'm talking about this because I don't really know hockey very well, and I'm just kind of curious about it. But there was a term when Gretzky was playing, and I'm not sure, and he wasn't it. He was more of a finesse player, but it was called a goon. What is a goon in hockey?
A goon is a player that you could also name as an enforcer. They go out there and pretty much say, like, for instance, one of your star players gets hurt. They'll go out there and just drop the gloves and teach that player a lesson to that you don't punish my all-star player because you don't want to hurt your best player in your team. So they go out there and even the score basically with their fists and do some dirty stuff to your players that would affect your team.
So if you are a goon, this is how it works. If you are a goon, you're on the other team and you are hurting your players. If you are an enforcer, you're on your team and you're hurting their players. Am I right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the way it works.
Yeah. And I think over the years, though, the NHL and the goon, when Gretzky played, that was a great term to have. But the way the NHL has evolved, it's such a fast, skilled game today. There's really no place for the goon anymore. So you'll see tough players and guys that'll drop the gloves and fight, and you see pests and guys that get under your skin and maybe bend the rules a bit. But I think the days where you used to have a goon and every team carried one, Every team had a goon. Those days are done. If you can't skate and can't play, there's no place for you in today's NHL. It's too fast, too skilled, and you just don't see the goon players anymore. Now, that's not to say every once in a while you won't see a player revert back and just do some sort of goon play from the past. But really, the days of being a goon and having a job in the NHL, I don't think it exists anymore. That's just my opinion on the matter.
They
They
did
may
bring
have-
one goon back though on the Rangers. Rempe, they tried to test him out, and that was an interest. Everyone loved it though. It brings the viewership back up, so it's definitely out of the game now. But they'll definitely throw a curveball in there once in a while by bringing one back.
But by the way, we are talking with Aaron and Jake, and they are the name of your program is
Bare Knuckle Sports.
Bare Knuckle Sports Talk.
And if you want to find out more about them, you can go. Do you guys have a website yet?
You can email us at bareknucklesportstalk99@gmail.com. We love to hear from everybody out there. We love it when you mail us, ask us questions, and we'll definitely answer you, get back to you, even talk about it on the show if you like. So you can reach out to us that way right now.
Well, and because I'm from Seattle, I do have to, and you guys are involved with the fantasy leagues. I do have to ask you the most important question that I may ask anybody at any time this week, and that is, and we need to take a break, and we'll be right back. But what the hell's going on with the Mariners? And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Positive Talk Radio. We're going to take a short break to tell you audio and music creators about our commercial affiliate, Lyric Vids, specializing in creating amazing and engaging lyric videos. Are you looking to promote your videos in the most engaging way, but you don't have an animator and an editor? Whether you're an artist, musician, or business with a message to share, our lyric videos are designed to hook viewers and amplify your reach. Go to positivetalkradio.net/lyric vids. That's positivetalkradio.net/LYRICVIDS now to get started. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. We hope you enjoyed learning about our affiliate Lyric Vids, who specialize in creating captivating animated lyric videos. Now let's get back to the show.
And welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. I jumped the gun on that one. See, you're a professional broadcaster would not jump the gun on that, but what the hell? So I've given you guys a full minute and a half to think about it. So tell me, what the hell's going on with the Mariners?
I think they've got the same disease as the Blue Jays, a lack of hitting, a lack of pitching, and they just can't get anything going. This is a team that the last 2 seasons have been in the postseason. They've looked good. I don't know. When you go up and down that roster, there's no reason that team should be in the position they're in right now. And it's like a disease. Up here, we've got the same thing going on with the Bluebirds. They can't get it going. I think it's a combination of the bats running dry and the pitching not getting it done. Middle relief hasn't been good. The struggles are real.
And it's really true. You know, the Mariners are fixing to set a new all-time major league record. You know what that's for?
I do not.
Strikeouts. They're on pace to get like 1,500 strikeouts for the year. They've got 800 and some odd so far this year. So apparently they can't hit the ball. But I guess it's kind of like everybody's having problems. Either the ball isn't what it used to be, or these guys. Do you remember Nolan Ryan?
Oh yeah, I remember Nolan Ryan. Absolutely, I do.
Do you remember he used to throw like 92, 93 miles an hour, and that was considered really hot for the time? Now you got these guys at 100 miles an hour. I remember the first guy I saw wasn't that long ago that could throw 100. What is happening with these people? Where are they finding them?
I think it's the sports science that's behind it. I think they've come so far with sports science and just understanding the human body that they're able to work on the fine mechanics right down to the littlest detail so that they can deliver a pitch at a speed like that. And sports science as well, you're also looking at a pitch count. When Nolan Ryan, you spoke of Nolan Ryan, who's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. There was no such thing as a pitch count. If a guy was hot and was going, they just kept throwing the ball. No one throws over 100 pitches ever anymore. It's one of the reasons you very rarely see a complete game these days because of the science in sports. And I think it's so prevalent in today's world of sports because of the knowledge we have of the human body and how everything works. Sports science is one of those things that are just growing every year, and we know more and more. I'm rambling on a little bit, but that's a big part, I think, of it is sports science.
Now I'm a bunch older than either of you two are, so I've got another statistic I'd like to throw at you, that there was a baseball team that played on the Eastern Seaboard, and they had four. I think it's the last time it's ever been done. Four pitchers that won 20 games in the same season. Do you remember who that?
Atlanta Braves? Atlanta Braves? Atlanta Braves?
No, close. That was a really good guess. This predates them a little bit. This is in the days of Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson and Dobson and Jim Palmer, and that would be the Baltimore Orioles. And but they
did not know that.
But kids today don't ever see a pitcher. How often does a pitcher do a complete game anymore? It's very rare. They get through 5-6 innings, maybe, and that's all they get. These guys won 20 games, and they pitched a lot. And that was actually before the days of when relief pitching became an art form. Because in way back when, it was the lesser than pitchers that would come in for the relief pitching duties when people like a Foster or a Jim Palmer or those guys couldn't go anymore. But I'm going back to the 60s and 70s now when I was.
That's all right. I love being educated, and I just got educated on something, so that's fantastic. But you're right. There was no pitch counts. No, a guy went up, no middle relief. Relief, a closer. Like these guys, they went out and they pitched until their arm fell off. But you didn't have, you think that they're doing the right thing because the sports science, you were talking about it yourself, they're throwing at 99, 100, 101, 97 consistently. And this is the reason I think that you see a lot of pitchers break down these days because they're throwing that ball so hard. Tommy John surgery becoming a big thing. You hear about it, see it all the time. And when you're throwing with such velocity, you have to watch what you're doing with your asset. And these guys are assets to the team, and they want them there the next week in that rotation, every fifth day, fifth game, next season. And again, you go back to sports science. What can the body hold up to? It's very interesting indeed.
Well, and the other thing about these guys is nowadays they are a corporation. You've got a starting pitcher like a pick one of the top pitchers. They're making $100 million a year or over their contract and stuff, and so they've got people. They've got all kinds of people, and their success rides upon their ability to stay healthy. So they have to use these guys to the sports medicine guys to keep them healthy because they're supporting 5, 10, 15, 20 people.
Absolutely. And like you said, it is an investment. When they're paying players money like this, they're investing in them for today. But they sign a guy to a 5, 7, 4, 10. I don't care what it is, what the number is. And you're putting all these millions of dollars out there. You're wanting performance year in, year out. So you don't want to run it to the ground. So I think everyone is a little more educated. The players have guys that are looking out for them. Ownership are looking out for the players because that's their asset. And bottom line is they all want to win, and your guys have to be healthy. If they're injuries, you let your guys get injured, you're not going to win.
It's like that Pittsburgh Pirates young pitcher they just got, Paul Skeens. He's pitching 108 miles average an hour with his fastball. If he's pitching like that, like you're saying, if he didn't have a a pitch count, he would definitely be getting hurt if he's pitching that every game, because he would need a break, obviously, if he's throwing 100-mile-an-hour balls at you every game.
Did you guys play baseball when you were growing up? I actually was a catcher, and I caught a guy who threw a 92, 93 mile an hour fastball in high school, and he ended up getting drafted by the San Diego Padres, first round draft choice. He never made it to the majors because he stepped into a hole in the outfield while he was running, ripped up his knee, and then this is in the 70s, and in those days, if you ripped up your knee to that extent, they couldn't bring it back. But in any event, that was the scariest experience of my life, catching a 93 mile an hour fastball.
Yeah, that would be scary. I've never done that, but I did play organized baseball growing up. I played center field. That was when I used to be able to run. I'm a little bit older now. I can't quite run like that anymore.
Well, I'm glad you played center. I that's why I played catcher, because I couldn't run. And I didn't have to run. I had a strong arm, but that was about it. When we come back, I want to ask you guys, because you've been following sports for a long time. I want to ask you, did you guys ever read the book Instant Replay?
I have not read it.
It was done by Jerry Kramer, who was the guard for the Green Bay Packers in the late 60s, and Vince Lombardi was the coach. And in those days, they played for the football season. That's why they had training camp to get into shape, because in the off season, they had another job. And because they had to make a living, and they didn't make enough money playing football in those days like they do today. When we come back, let's see if I can stir up some controversy. What do you two think about $250 million salary for a guy who can chuck around a football? You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and he might be 5'8" and stuff. Anyway, we'll be right back after this.
Okay.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. I know this isn't the normal show that we have on Positive Talk, because neither of these guys are an energy healer or a financial analyst or any of those things, but they're experts in what they do, and they are growing a show on the Brushwood Media Network called Bare Knuckle Sports. I've listened to it. It's a great show. They have lots of interesting content and a difference of opinion from time to time, which is really quite good. And Jake, before we go, I do want to get into the art form that is the football crap. What do you call it? But anyway, I wanted to ask you guys about it'll come to me. What do you think about sports salaries today, and the fact that Russell Wilson would leave the Seahawks and gets paid $250 million to play football? What do you guys think about that?
I don't see. Well, I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, so I can get the same type of picture of Russell Wilson with Joe Burrow, for instance. I just think it's pretty crazy that they get paid that much money and they can go out with injury. Next thing you know it, your top paid player is out for the whole season and your team goes to rubbish because the quarterback is one of the central positions of football in general. So losing a quarterback, it's getting paid bucket loads of money, is actually ridiculous, I think, in a lot of eyes. yeah, they may deserve it, but in the end, if you lose them, then your team's pretty much kiboshed.
I mean, you scared me there for a moment because you said bucket full, and I thought you said something with an F
Oh.
word. Never mind.
Oh, no, we said bucket.
You did. You said buckets. Yeah. Aaron, what do you think?
I think there's nothing wrong with it. I have a completely different opinion. If someone is making 25, 5, 10, 15, 50, 60, 70 million dollars a year, first thing that tells me is someone else is making 10 times that. They're moving the money around. We're going to use a quarterback, for instance, the most important position in football. Nothing else comes close. Without a quarterback, you do not win. And if you want to look at Russell Wilson, he was a proven winner. The numbers were there. He won a championship. He brought a championship to Seattle, something that no other quarterback had ever done. But to me, the money is relevant to what the overall industry is. So the ownership is making money. You've got these huge TV deals. If I go into work tomorrow and the competitor down the road looks at me and is willing to give me twice my salary that I'm making someplace else, am I going to say, you know what, I'm probably not worth that? Or am I going to jump on that train and go? There's enough money that's going around for everyone. Do I think it's an insane amount of money? Absolutely, 100%. It's like I can't fathom it myself. But I'm definitely not blaming the players for taking it. And ownership has driven the salary up, up, and up for so many years. Every year, you can complain about salary, but look at when free agency hits in whatever sport you want. And what are the GMs out there doing? They're throwing away millions of dollars like it's dollar bills. It's raining money for everyone. And I'm not going to blame the player. And if I have a superstar player or someone that I think I can rely on that's going to take me to the top of the sport, bring me a championship, because with that championship comes more revenue for the ownership, then who am I to say no? I think they're getting paid their share of the take. And there's some pretty big contracts out there with sports, with sports in general, with TV rights and stuff. Kid yourself not. Everyone's getting their share of the pie, and they're not taking in as much as the owners.
Well, and I agree with you because I agree with actually both of what you just said. Because the one issue is if the players are, if as an example, the group behind Walmart, who are the ones who own the Denver Broncos now, if they didn't have $250 million to throw at Russell Wilson, they never would have. And so they thought that was a good investment of that money because they were going to make that back in spades. It didn't turn out that way, but at the same time, they have the money. Now, what I would like to see them do more so is to give some of that money back to the community in ways of helping teachers and the community rather than them taking billion. And you know what I'd really like to see? I'd really like to see Fox sign a contract with you guys and pay you what you're worth to do the show that you do on Saturdays at and twice. One at 5:00 in the afternoon, the other one's at 11. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct. Absolutely. 11
I
and
would
5.
like to see Fox News pay you $100,000 a year to do what you're doing because you're much more important than an owner that we never get to see. So that
I like that. I like that. How do
If
I
you're
sign up for
listening,
that?
Fox, give us a call.
Yeah. And for people that are doing good in the world and are trying to uplift others and to entertain them in a positive way, which is what you guys are doing, and that really does deserve a higher level of respect than it's currently getting, because I know you guys work. You're flying around Aaron 6 hours every week to get up to where you're working and back and forth, and then you're doing the show and stuff. So this is a passion project for you, and you deserve to get paid for it. And so that's all I'm saying. Jake, what do you think?
I'm agreeing with it. I'm riding the wave too.
And by the way, Jake, when you're not doing this, what are you doing?
I'm a plumber Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day, and sometimes more. But yeah, plumber, and then that's pretty much it.
Can I give you my address? I have a leaky faucet.
So, I've heard that one too, and you might have to add you to the list there because lots of people ask for my services.
I just want to say this on behalf of everybody who may be listening, and that is my son is a diesel mechanic, and he works on high rises, and he works on a lot of different diesel equipment. That there aren't a lot of people that are doing that at his age. He's 35, 36. Most of those people are in their 50s, because everybody, at least in the United States, I'm not sure how it is in Canada, but in the United States, a lot of people are saying, you need a college education, you need to go to school and go do that, but they don't know the trades. And the trades are dying for lack of good quality mechanics and plumbers and electricians and all those kinds of goes. So my advice to you, if you're a parent and you've got a kid who is good with his hands, send him to trade school. He doesn't need to go to college necessarily. He can make more money. He can make more money going to trade school. I had a conversation with my son. And the reason I'm laughing is I drove a bus for 12 years, city bus in Seattle. And I said, he's in the military now. And I said, when you get out of the military, you could drive a bus. You can get another pension to go along with your military pension. And then by the time you're in your middle 50s, you're set for life. You don't have to work again. You can do whatever you want to. And he said, you want me to drive a bus? Have you lost your mind? So, and I suppose it depends on what you're willing to do. But do you agree with me, Jake, that in the trades right now, we have got a deficit of good quality people, or just people, to do the work?
I agree 100%. For instance, the jobs I'm at right now, we only have 3 younger guys that are classified as apprentices in Canada. I don't know if they are in the States, but they're classified as apprentices, which is building up their apprenticeship to get to where I'm at as a journeyman. And yeah, there's not very many left on our job site, at least. So it's definitely dying down. You can definitely tell that people are wanting to be entrepreneurs and they just want to get the big checks right away and do other types of stuff like that and not get their hands dirty. So definitely, I agree with you that it's definitely a dying trade.
And the problem now is that these people are finding that are going into IT and tech and all of these things is that those jobs are drying up because of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are not long-term jobs for the future. Whereas I don't know if a computer or a robot is ever going to do what you do, Aaron or Jake, because I know, Aaron, you know a lot about a lot of different pieces of equipment because you hire the people to work on those pieces of equipment. So you need to know about all of that stuff. And that takes a lot of time and expertise to learn those things. And I think that in our society right now, we're not spending enough time doing that.
I agree with you. I think that the trades are a great path for people and they don't realize it. I've been in the trades for 25 years. I've been sitting at an office for 7 years now, but still doing the same thing with the trade background, Boilermaker myself by trade. But it's a great way to have a career, a rewarding career, a pension, and to live a comfortable life if you're not going to go the college route. If that's maybe not your thing, there's nothing wrong with getting a trade. I work around tradesmen all the time, and it is getting thinner and thinner the field that you can pull from because less and less people are getting into the trades and taking different routes, but you can have a really good career and a really good life by getting a trade.
Well, in where I live in Seattle, I was a Metro bus driver for 12 years, and they recently renegotiated the contract, and now a journeyman bus driver, which is what I was, makes well into the $40 an hour range. like 43, 44, and then when it's time and a half for overtime, that's 60 something dollars an hour. They can't find enough bus drivers to fill all the routes down here. It is just bizarre, and it's crazy. But so there, I think a lot of people need to look at it differently than to be hoity-toity in a at a computer console and being really cool and stuff, because that can go away too. So anyway, enough of that. I'm sorry. I just had to bring those up because you guys are a couple of guys that are the typical sports guys, and fantasy football. That's what I wanted to bring up. And Jake, explain for our people who have no earthly idea. They heard the term every now and again, and both of you can weigh in on this. They've heard the term fantasy football or fantasy baseball or whatever it is. What is it? What, and how did it come to be? And what do you do with it?
Well, fantasy football will that's be the next one coming up for me. So we'll start off. You get to draft a team, go out with your buddies or join a league or whatever, and you draft a team, quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, every position until your whole team's filled out. Then you go into a league and you go head to head against your opponents in that league. And whoever compiles the most points during that week wins the week, and therefore you get a win. So I called it a W, but a win. So then the person who has the most wins during the season, you then enter a playoff bracket, and then you face off single eliminations. And then if you win the big pot. If not, you go home as a sore loser, I guess.
And so there is a lot of, my son plays fantasy football, and there is a lot of research that you have to do, because you have to look at the opponents. You have to look at, are they a good rushing team? And then you got to pick the right players to be on the field playing at the right time. It can be really a long-term type of deal, huh?
Yep, those 17 weeks are probably the longest ever, and you also have to pay attention to injuries because your team could also get hurt, every single player in the first week, and then you have to scramble around in the free agency, which is all the players that didn't get picked, and sub players in and out to avoid losing the week due to all your players getting hurt.
Now, who's the poor guy who's got to keep track of all this stuff?
Yourself.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So is there any cheating going on?
If there's cheating, you probably
You're not trying, right?
Well, if you cheat, you probably kicked out of the league because you don't want any of that kind of behavior in that league, unless it's a bad league.
Well, maybe not cheating, but if you can out-research the person, and you're always looking for that dark horse, maybe the young rookie that's coming in that can light it up and make the difference, and you can get him in a later round. There's so many similarities, and I think it's so big is because, listen, there's so many people out there that love the game of sports, and we're all armchair GMs, and for 17 weeks you get to sit down and actually be the GM of your own team, and whether it's fantasy or not, at least you're running your own show and making your own calls. You win and lose on your own merit, and I lose a lot.
Well, and that's the other thing that I wanted to mention, and we need to take a real quick break, but gambling did you know that a couple of baseball players just got suspended for life for gambling on their own team? A couple of minor league baseball players in the States. I wanted to talk about gambling in sports and your guys' take on it. See, for me, it's not gambling, because if I bet that the Seahawks were going to win by 3, they'll win by 2. Is generally how my life works. So we need to take a quick break. We're talking with the gentleman from Bare Knuckle Sports, and that's Jake and Aaron. You guys are fun. Will you come back and see me again?
For sure.
Absolutely. And you got to come on our show. We'll sit down. We'll talk some Seattle Mariners, some Seahawks. We'll get into the Kraken.
The Kraken.
Hey, we'll even talk some Washington college football if you like. I'm down.
Ooh, that would be. And by the way, that's another question I have to ask you. What in the hell is a Kraken? And we'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We got peoples that are here, and there are peoples that want to find out things about you guys. So DC and DH fighting. Who wins, boys? I assume I haven't got a clue who they're talking about. Who are they talking about?
D and DH fighting. Who wins? I like Holloway. I like Holloway. I'm gonna go that way.
And so, are we talking about a fight that a hockey game breaks out in?
This is MMA fighting.
MMA. Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's there's another one we got to talk about. I got to tell you, and Maddie is excited to talk to you guys. He just beat Justice Jimmy Miller, and Danny Christie. And then he uses an acronym. I don't know what that means, and I'm scared to ask. What does that mean? BCFC.
I'm not sure what that one is myself.
Well, we're not going to speculate because you just don't know. It can be something that nobody wants to know about given the current situation. But so let me go back. Gambling in sports. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Is it going to corrupt sports eventually, or is everybody going to play nice?
I think it's a good thing unless you're playing the sport, because therefore you could bet on yourself. For instance, if you were, for instance, Calvin Ridley, he was betting on himself when he was playing on the Cardinals in a positive way. But if he were to bet on, say, for instance, would get 4 catches and he gets the 4 catches, he'd be making profit off himself. So I can see how it doesn't work in certain ways, but overall, like, I think it should, if it doesn't affect the game, I don't think it should matter. But yeah.
And Matty has explained himself, so let's go do that first. YouTube DC versus DH. The first fight was decent, and they were unfit.
I'll also add in my pick onto that too. The only reason why I'm going Dylan Holloway was when he fought Gaethje and he just pointed at the center mat like that, just shows how reckless he is, and he just beat him to a pulp, and that shows so much respect I have for that guy, just to point at the mat and say, let's just no defense, just all offense, and beat the crud out of each other.
Okay, so let me ask
you on that fight. He was on point. That's probably the best that I've ever seen him look. The guy's got a motor that doesn't stop, and he was on point. I just like him. He's an exciting fighter.
Who wins, a world championship boxer or an MMA champion?
Which sport are they fighting in? Now, if they're getting in the ring and they're going to box, then it's going to be the boxer all day long. But if you put a boxer in a cage, I think it's going to be over real fast.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If you have a boxer that's willing to go into the cage, he's already got brain damage.
It's just like Jake Paul, though. Jake Paul goes and fights those guys that are MMA or old boxers, and he beats them to a pulp. So I can only imagine if a boxer goes in with an MMA fighter, they have the advantage. Like,
only if it's the rules where they can't take you down and then hit you in the face with their elbow.
Yeah,
and all of that stuff. The first time I saw MMA, and I keep bringing this up, I'm a little older than you. First time I thought that this was like some kind of a street brawl that the police were going to come in and break up. I had no idea that there were even any rules associated with it. It can be scary for people, can't it? Or let me ask you this. There are people that'll say boxing is more dangerous than MMA. What do you think?
They both have their ups and downs. I would definitely think they might be equally scary, but just in MMA, you can use your feet, you can choke them out. Boxing's more fist-to-fist combat, but if you get a good punch to the face, you might be out cold for a long time.
I know what that feels like.
We've seen boxers fall in the middle of the ring and never get up, ever. It's a dangerous sport. It always has been. That's one of the reasons they went from championship fights being 15 rounds down to 12. I mean, it's a dangerous sport as well, and has been for a long time. They both are dangerous in their own rights, and if you're not ready for it, and you're all it can take is one bad day, and you never get another chance, right?
Well, that's all it took for me was one bad day, because it was the first bad day too, in the first fight. But see, nobody taught me that, because this was I was doing AAU, and nobody taught me, even as an amateur, that rule number one: do not fight an opponent who is in the penitentiary. Rule number two: don't go to the penitentiary, because that's all they do is. So I won the first round and then ended up in the hospital for the second round. And Maddie says, it's nice to meet you boys.
It's nice to meet you, Maddie.
Did you guys get lots of people calling into your show?
We get lots of emails from people asking questions and wanting to know different things. So we try to keep it up as much as we can. We love the people that listen. That's why we do it too, right? I love people listening, hearing what they think, giving their opinions, good, bad. Sometimes they tell me that I'm out of my mind, and I love that. Because they're passionate about what they believe, just like we are. So I think that's great.
I think I'm doing the wrong show, quite frankly. No.
Gambling. Can I touch on the gambling just for a second? I want to spin it back. Because I never spoke about it, but I think it's a good thing as long as it's governed properly, because you've always had gambling on sports. Just before, it was all underground, so no one knew what was going on, or this person was paying this person. It was underground betting that was going on, and now it's kind of across the board. It's governed properly. The leagues, whether it's the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, they're all involved in a sense. So they kind of police it and keep it organized so that it's not a scam. And when you do catch the players, unfortunately, that are betting on it, well, it's lifetime bans. And we saw it in the NBA this year, right? Gone for the year. Silverberg said, forget it. We're not having it. There's no place for it in our sport. So that's my take on it. I think it's always gone on, and now it's just everyone knows about it now, but it's policed much better. So I don't have an issue with it.
There was a guy. Okay, trivia quiz, and then we got to go. There was a guy, he played for the Cincinnati Reds. He was a second baseman. He played during the Great Red Machine. He played with Johnny Bench. He played with
Pete Rose is his name, and he should be in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame. We'll discuss that the next time you have us on, because I'm a firm believer that he should be in the Hall of Fame. Made a mistake, didn't bet on his own team, didn't bet on his own. Like, there's a whole lot there. At some point in time, you look at his numbers, you have to forgive. He should be in the Hall of Fame. That's just my take.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. He did what so many players are doing now anyway. So, it wasn't that big of a deal. See, I'm a lot older than you guys. Let's see. The only other thing I consider the greatest quarterback of all time died on when he was 65 on 9/11, which is also my birthday. Played for the Baltimore Colts. Who was he?
Ronnie Unitas?
Golly, you are good.
I'm too young.
I have to go back into those years, because that's when I was growing up. You know, Johnny Unitas was he was
king.
Yeah, he was the best quarterback of all time. Now it's different today. But anyway, gentlemen, Jake and Aaron, thank you for being here. Bare Knuckle Sports is on the Brushwood Media Network. They are on at 11 a.m., again at 5 p.m. every Saturday. And so tune into them and enjoy their show. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us,
me.
Kevin. It has been a pleasure, and we look forward to having you on our show. We'll do it again soon.
Got to ask you, did you think it would go like this, or did you think it would be kind of weird?
I didn't know how it was going to go, but I was. I had
I'm
a lot
optimistic.
of fun. A lot of fun.
Very good. And guys, thank you very much for being here. And we will do this. We will do this again. I love sports, and I want to do more of this and do it from a positive perspective. If we could, that would be swell. And thank you guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.